Western art was developed differently compared to Chinese art. In China, calligraphy and painting were evolved together, therefore combining their painting, graphic arts, literature, and poetry in a way that did not happen in Europe. There are a few things to note on how they differ. Chinese painters use higher expression and imagination for interpretations of nature that was based on Taoist philosophy to achieve harmony with nature. On the other hand, Western painters convey scenic picture by relying on shapes, color, shadows, and light. The Western convention for perspective is to envision all lines receding into the distance such that they converge at a single distant point, dubbed the vanishing point. In terms of perspective, Western paintings use 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective. However, in Chinese painting, those perspectives were not applied. This was criticized by the Italian Jesuit priest Matteo Ricci, arguing that the lack of perspective and shading made it look flat, dead, and lifeless, while the Chinese saw the oil paintings that were brought by the Jesuits and replied that the painting was too lifelike and lacking expression. The Chinese developed and classified 3 personal points of view in ways of viewing a landscape. The first one is the level distance perspective, where the viewer looks down from the high ground. The second is the deep distance perspective, where the viewer vision penetrates the landscape, and lastly, the height distance perspective, where the viewer looks up from the low ground. Chinese landscapes are not meant to be viewed from a single point of view, as we do with the Western concept of perspective. Pictures are meant to be reflected upon, and the eye should move from one section to another. Most compositions are rectangular, but the eye should move within the rectangle in zigzags or triangular motions. Whereas the Western concept is to draw your eye into a scene, the Chinese concept is to move your eye upwards. Hence, you often see figures looking up, or elements such as clouds, temples, and mist placed in order to draw your eye upwards. Since Greek times, Western oil painting has taken people as their main subject. In the 19th century, landscape paintings came to light. However, figure painting was still the main subject. In contrast, Chinese painters prefer to use clouds, mountains, trees, waterfalls that look more two-dimensional. From Chinese landscape painting, we can understand the Chinese artistic concept, where it can accurately represent and express Chinese culture and spirit. Proportional rules common to Western composition also do not apply in Chinese compositions. Certain elements such as birds or frogs may be deliberately larger in proportion to their surroundings to focus attention. In viewing Chinese landscapes, the Western eye is sometimes perplexed by waterfalls, cliffs, or mountains that appear large, yet must be in the far distance, and towards the top of the composition. This accommodation of elements in a Chinese landscape takes some careful planning when your eye is accustomed to Western concepts. Westerners understand the concept of anatomy, the study of human skeleton and muscles that is used to paint people more realistically and accurately like a real human. However, this concept did not exist for Chinese figure painters. Thus, the character size and proportion may look odd and not proportionate. However, this did not diminish the shining point of Chinese ink wash painting, that pursues the strong impression and exaggerate characteristics of the painting subjects. For men figures, the painter will increase their size to appear stronger and give an aggressive masculine appearance, while paint women to a slender figure to appear fragile and gentle. Chinese ink wash paintings can also be presented without a background to show their characteristics, while Western oil paintings tend to rely on using a background to make them appear more realistic. For Chinese ink wash painting, drawing bamboos, trees, or flowers can be surrounded by a blank white background, where each line represents the painting itself, while lines in Western oil painting functions as an outline. To Chinese painters, unpainted areas do have the same significance as the painted ones, to enable the audience to use imagination to interpret the scene.